Today, we sit down with Brooke with Who's That Fat Girl podcast to delve into her journey of managing Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, also known as PCOS, through diet and exercise. Brooke shares her personal experiences and insights discussing the challenges she faced and the strategies that helped her achieve balance and wellness. Join us for an informative and empowering conversation about navigating PCOS with a holistic approach. Welcome to Unapologetically Woman, the podcast where women come together to share their unfiltered experiences navigating womanhood. Join us as we dive into candid conversations about periods, perimenopause, postpartum bleeding, miscarriages, and more. This is a safe space where we embrace the raw, real, and often unspoken aspects of being a woman. Get ready to be empowered, inspired, and heard. This is Unapologetically Woman. So today we have Brooke, who is with Who's That Fat Girl podcast, and she is going to be discussing with us PCOS and regulating periods through diet and exercise modification. Thank you so much, Brooke, for joining me. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge and your presence with us. I feel like it's such a motivational, inspirational story for us as women to get on and discuss our experience, with our menstruation and coming into womanhood and just being unapologetically woman. And I would love to start with your story. I know we're going to discuss PCOS and regulating, our periods, but how did this start for you? What age were you when your period began, and what was your initial reaction and feelings around your period?
Boy, I was 13 years old and I remember not wanting my period. I guess I was had Peter Pan syndrome at the age of 13. I didn't want to grow up. And period and boobs meant womanhood, and I didn't want it. And it was really funny because the day before I started my period, I remember that as well. I was heading to dance class and I felt this horrible allergy, sinus infection come on. And I said to my mom, and I never cut dance class. It was I have to cut dance class. Let's go home. I feel horrible. And the next day I started my period.
Oh, buddy. Okay. So dance definitely can relate to that. As a dance artist, I feel like that is just so debilitating for us when something happens to our body, because we're our body is everything, and so you're experiencing this discomfort. At the time, what was the answer? What was the solution for you going through this? And did you just start to spot on the way home? Did you what exactly happened?
Right. So it was this weak feeling, tired, no cramps. I still don't get cramps. Hell will freeze over and then I'll get a period cramp, but I get everything else surrounded by it. So I just felt really tired, feverish, even though I didn't have a fever, and achy, and all my sinuses felt clogged. Go home and I skipped school the next day too, because of this feeling. And then I just went to the bathroom, and it wasn't a gush of blood, but it was a little bit, enough, not spotting, but kind of in between, if that makes any sense. And those little pink carefree pads, the panty liners, I used those. I kept using those. I didn't want to tell my mom, look, we needed to whip out, do you have the big always pads? Because I didn't use tampons for a while. But yeah, my best friend came over after school. She lived across the street, one of my best friends. And I told her, and she's like, look, you have to tell your mom. Somebody's got to go and get you some pads, girl. You can't be living on these tiny little carefree things forever, So then I had to break it to my mom.
Okay, this is very interesting because, it sounds like a bit of you didn't want to grow up, but it's, a bit of denial, with the period. And then also a bit of shame.
Totally.
And it's interesting, how that correlates with our period at such a young age, these feelings of shame and denial. How did that play a role for you, as you continued, with that being the initial feeling, and actually once you told your mom finally, what was her reaction?
Yeah, it's funny because the shame and denial, I blame 80s movies for that. I remember a lot of movies growing up. I was a big John Hughes fan, and I think it was 16 Candles when the grandma comes and she's like, she's got her boobies, and she goes like that. And I was worried that having a period, my mom would be like, oh my God, and like call everybody and tell everybody, because it feels very personal, right? Even though if she called my aunt or my grandma, hello, they have a period too, or at the time they had periods, what's the big deal? But I feel like movies put like such this big thing on womanhood, and it was men, straight white men, writing about our bodies. No offense to the late great John Hughes, but it was at least 2 or 3 movies that set with me that put that shame in there. My mom didn't react like that. She's just like, okay, well, let's get you a pad, you know? And so she used the Always pads. And she's like, no, we're not going to do tampons. Those hurt and those can give you TSH. And I was like, oh gosh. So that's how that happened.
That's very interesting. It's very interesting because at that time, though, what society is pumping through us through perpetual programming, right? Through these movies, through these TV shows that we see. And it has us feeling a certain way about our bodies too. And women react differently to it. And so it's very interesting, you know, because I do feel like a lot of shaming and embarrassment does come from society. It comes through the movies. It comes through even, you know, when men make jokes about it. Our health is not a joke, you know, and then getting upset with us when they make a joke about our bodies and our health and what we're going through when we're going through literally chemical changes in our bodies, you know, and to be like, oh, it's just a joke. It's like, no, it's not a joke to disrespect my health.
Right.
You know, it's like, and then you have to put it in context with them. It's like, oh, you think it's funny to disrespect my health? Like, you know, you have to get.
Yeah. And we're supposed to laugh at their jokes too. We're like, what? No.
Exactly. It's like, excuse you, I'm having a really draining moment. Okay. Like, I guess, like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting. And even like the comedy that you put on about that movie, you know, like going straight for, you know, and then it becomes normal to joke about what a woman's going through. And that's something, you know, I really feel a lot of women are stepping up, especially like nowadays, because, you know, I grew up, I was born in the late 80s. So coming up in the 90s, you know, I'm seeing all these powerful women who are just like, who are you calling a bitch? Like, they are just straight up like independent. It was like all about independent women, like just rising up at that time and sticking up for themselves. And I really feel like that carried over, you know, and just was also, you know, a headbutter, you know, for the generation, like our parent generation, who are just like, no, you're a woman, you need to know your place kind of thing. And then it was like us coming up and we're being inspired by all these women. We're like, no, I can do anything. So I'm glad that you brought up the 80s, you know, in that time and how it was looked at, even portrayed through the movies. So as you know, you're going through your years, you know, and you're dealing with this, what was the turning point for you where it was like, okay, we got to figure out what's going on, what's happening here? What was the turning point for that for you?
Yeah. It seems as if before my period, I was a very, very skinny child. And then I got the quote unquote baby fat. And then after my period, it's like I kept gaining a lot of weight without eating horribly. And I was still physically active. And I was starting to get like facial hair, especially sideburns, like all the way down, like mutton chops, if you will. And a lot of things just didn't feel right. And then my period started being dysregulated around the age of 16. So I had a normal period for about 3 years. And I said to my mom, you know, my mom agreed something's not right. We tried to seek out help from endocrinologists. And one endocrinologist said, wait until you have a period, then we'll rerun your blood work and go from there. Well, I didn't have a normal period for a year. So it's kind of like, wait, we have to wait until I get a normal period, but I'm not getting normal periods. I'm not getting a period. So I just went off to college because at the time, nobody was talking about PCOS. Nobody was talking about it. Now it seems like everywhere I turn, someone has PCOS. which oftentimes I think people might be misdiagnosing themselves with it, but that's just my humble opinion. So when I went to college, I did have periods, and sometimes heavy, like avalanches. Like I would have to run. We had those dormitory bathrooms. I'd have to run to the communal bathroom. And I met an endocrinologist. My mom had moved to North Carolina, female, so I felt much more comfortable going to a female endocrinologist. And my mom had done a lot of research on the World Wide Web. The internet was just kind of becoming a thing. And my mom said, look, I think you have something called Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. And I found a good endocrinologist for you. And the endocrinologist took one look at me. I was like about 250 pounds, like, facial hair, irregular periods. And she's like, before I even examine you or do blood work, I'm pretty sure you have PCOS. And so that's how kind of all of that happened.
Wow. And so what age were you when you met that endocrinologist?
I believe I was going into my sophomore year. So I was like about maybe 19 years old.
Okay. So I want, us as women to understand, the time that, it takes, because also you're experiencing the fact that you're not being really taken seriously, by the first endocrinologist. And that happens even to this day. Like we will go to the doctor and our pain is put off. Like,
Yep.
Oh, go ahead, pop these prescription strength ibuprofen, you'll be fine, and we're just brushed to the side as if that's an answer. And there's really, we're spending, I'm sorry, I just did like a research paper about NASA and saw that they got $30.92 billion in funding. And I'm like, yo, what?
What?
And women's health is what? Like, I was so disgusted,
Yeah.
and I'm like, wow, people are really valuing technology, over humans, over not even just being a woman, over humans, because even when you think about space and what they've really created for us, I'm like, yo, we can filter our own water through charcoal here on the earth. We don't need like the stuff that camera phones. I remember not having a phone at all. And frankly, it was a very good feeling,
Exactly.
like without it. So it's like we're creating more job opportunities, even though the people who are living in poverty can't afford the job opportunities because they don't even qualify.
Right.
So it's just interesting how it's never really about the people.
No,
It's
not.
And you visiting, the first endocrinologist who basically dismissed you for a year, that had to be disheartening. And so, yay, mom. Congratulations, mom, for going through with that. And I'm so honored. I don't know if you remember the doctor's name, but I mean, if you could just throw her name out there.
Yeah. Dr. Wendy Lane. And I believe she's still practicing. I think one of my friends who lives down there still sees her for PCOS. And I would always joke, like, Wendy Lane, like I think Wendy Lane, like the Penny Lane song,
That's great. And yes, big shout out to Dr. Wendy Lane, because that is so important for women to be able to confide and trust in their doctor.
Yeah.
And the fact that she looks at you and she's like, yep, and she can understand it because she is a woman.
Thank you.
And I think, we need to look that out, because unfortunately the medical field is still dominated. It's still male dominated. And so we as women have to do that due diligence, and we do have to find that doctor who they are going to take what we say seriously. And they're going to let us know, hey, there's a solution for this. Like, don't worry. Hey, so many women go through this, and to be involved in that type of way. Thank you so much. That was awesome. So we're going to take a quick short break. And then after our break, we are going to go into Brooke's story on her journey with PCOS and how she learned to regulate her period through exercise and dieting. So stay tuned. Welcome to Unapologetically Woman, the podcast where we dive into all things related to women's health, empowerment, and success. I'm Miss Tanya, a dedicated life coach using menstrual cycle synergy to help women executives, women entrepreneurs, and corporations, helping them establish better policies to accommodate women. If you are enjoying today's episode and want to stay updated with our latest content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Share this video with a woman who would benefit from our discussions. We're always looking to grow our community and empower more women. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing the insights you gained from today's episode. And don't forget to like this video to show your support. If you are watching during the premiere, make sure you leave a comment during the premiere below in order to enter into our monthly giveaway where you'll receive live CBD resin gummy, CBD skincare products, a period tracker planner, and a spa certificate. Winners will be tagged and announced. New episodes premiere on YouTube on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. If you're ready to take the next step towards your own empowerment, book a free 15 life coaching session with me. Visit www.mstanya.com to schedule your session today. For corporations looking to support women's health, I offer consulting services to help implement better policies. Want to be a guest on our show and share your story? Visit our website or find the link in the description to express your interests. Thank you for being part of our community. Subscribe now, click the notification bell, leave a comment, like, share, and join us on this empowering journey. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on Unapologetically Woman. Welcome back, you guys, to Unapologetically Woman. We are here with the lovely Brooke, who is going to continue her story. So she finds out, okay, just from a beautiful doctor looking at her and be like, yo, you got PCOS. So after, Dr. Wendy Lane, gives you your diagnosis, I'm pretty sure she did, other tests to confirm it. Mm-hmm. So what happened during this process?
Yeah. So the exam, it was a lot. She examined me full on, naked everything. And I had never been to a gyno at this point, nothing. So it felt like invasive, I'll be honest. But say la vie, it is what it is, right? Blood work to measure everything, especially and including testosterone levels, which were off the chart, meaning I had more testosterone than a quote unquote average female should, which explained a lot about my facial hair growth and irregular periods. So she basically put me on metformin and spironolactone and a birth control pill. And that little cocktail is supposed to regulate your insulin resistance issues, right? Because that's the endocrine component. And it regulates, the spironolactone, aka aldactone, helps with the facial hair growth. And the birth control is to regulate your periods. So she put me on that and things started to regulate. And I was told things meaning my period, but I still felt like it was, very overweight. I was obese. I was 250 pounds and 5'8", and weight loss was very, very hard. And the hair growth was still happening despite laser hair treatments. And she just said, just keep trying. So I tried the weight loss, and my mom said, you know what, Brooke, I looked up something very specific called the South Beach diet. And it's basically a Mediterranean way of eating. And she said, this should help people with PCOS lose weight because you can't just do low fat. You can't do low calorie, because if you're still eating a lot of bread or like treats that might be low calorie, but still higher in sugar, that's not going to help somebody with PCOS who has an insulin resistance issue. So basically the South Beach diet, which is a Mediterranean lifestyle, which is what I still adapt to this day, is what really was helping me with everything else. Yes, what Dr. Lane put me on helped me regulate the period, the timing, and the flow, if you will, but not all the other junky symptoms. That was my mom putting those pieces together.
And that's amazing. So your mom was putting the pieces together, and this was targeting your weight gain, because you were saying the cocktail wasn't really focused on the weight. It was more so about, let's get you regulated, let's get your hormones into place, and sometimes a lot of women they experience that when it comes to their hair loss. The dermatologist focuses so much on the scalp that they end up like, yeah, now your scalp is nice and healthy, but you lost all your hair from the, the
Yep.
stuff that they gave you.
Yep.
So this way you were getting the whole approach, which is what you wanted because you
Yes.
wanted to lose that weight. It was more than just about, regulating that period. So once your mom, she put you in onto this Mediterranean diet, how did you start to incorporate this Mediterranean diet? Did you eventually get to go off that medication? What started to happen?
Right. So, and Dr. Wendy Lane and my mom are still in North Carolina at this point. I'm in Brooklyn, and I would go see Dr. Lane every like 6 months, So that was like and there's no telemedicine. This was like the early 2000s. So that was like also the hard thing. So a lot of my good friends in Brooklyn, we all lived near each other, and we would make like healthy meals together. I was really grateful. Like two of my best friends, Josh and Missy, like jumped on that train with me, and we would make like stuffed bell peppers, but like with no white rice, things like that. So I did start to lose weight. Being in Brooklyn and having to walk a lot of places, that helped as well. And at one point, Dr. Lane, and I'm not making her the villain here, I'm just making the modern medical system the villain. She put me on a different birth control pill. I believe we switched from orthotricycline low to Yaz or something like that. And about maybe a week or two after being on it, I was walking up the stairs in Brooklyn, out of the subway, and I just fainted in the middle of the street. And I totally blamed the birth control because nothing else was different in my life. Like my blood sugar wasn't low, nothing. It's not like I had that issue, So I called her and I explained to her what happened. And I was like, what do you think? Maybe I should try something else. Like, this is very hard. I just fainted in the middle of the street. And she goes, you're a woman, you're just going to have to deal with it. And maybe it was because I wasn't local to her at the time. So I was just flying home and I would see her when I would go home every couple months or so. And that's when I said, screw it. I said, enough with the metformin, enough with these, especially enough with the birth control pill, because birth control ended up creating heart conditions in my aunt. So I said, definitely enough with the birth control. And I eventually got off the aldactone, spironolactone for the hair growth. I said, I'm going to do it the natural way. So I added herbs such as Vitex into my diet. But this was all looked at with an acupuncturist and a naturopath. So I said, kind of peace out to Dr. Lane, but I thanked her for where she got me to in that journey. And I started seeking natural remedies because I learned if I have a chronic condition, I don't want to constantly be on meds for the rest of my life. I did the math. I said, I can't be on birth control for the rest of my life. And it has been, 20 years or so. And I've been regulating it ever since, knock on wood, naturally. Yeah, I have a great primary care physician who I follow up with, who understands and respects that, and also will call me out when we need to regulate, but I'm on no prescription meds right now for PCOS or anything else.
That is wonderful. And I also want to thank you for bringing up the point about when the relationship needed to end, because I also think, women need to understand that too, like along our journey, there are people who have seasons in our lives, and it's like, okay, your season was up when you said to me, deal with it, you're a woman, because now you sound like every other person out there. So then, it's going to lead me to think, it's like, yo, did you put me on this jazz because you got paid from this pharmaceutical? Like, why am I like, so it's going to create this. So it's like, you know what? Thanks for getting me to this point, but there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And you decided to want that better way for yourself, and how you want that better way for yourself. Some women, they'll be like, yo, I'll just stick to the ibuprofen every month, like they'll stick to it. But then there's some, it's like, no, I choose to do this naturally. I choose to control this naturally. And I think once you make that decision and all you do is start putting the little steps, all of a sudden all this information starts to come into you. And that's when you get aligned with everyone that needs to be aligned with you, because now you've changed your mentality about it. So now you're getting people who's aligned with your mentality and who can help you along this part of your journey. And I think that's beautiful that you are absolutely on no prescriptions, you guys. Did you hear that? she's not on any prescriptions, okay, and she's regulating her period. And for the audience, would you mind going through, how maybe you will start regulating your period through certain meals, maybe an example, of a meal and what phase that you might be in, maybe if you're ovulating and you're feeling something, or if you're, what's going on.
Okay. So yeah, I'll give y'all an example. Yesterday, I'm a week away from starting my period. I track it on my little handy dandy homemade, a handwritten calendar. So I track it. I know you're big into that, Miss Tanya. So I'm supposed to start Tuesday the 9th. And yesterday I woke up and I was in beast mode, and I beasted, and I was eating. I have granola. I think granola can have a lot of sugar. The kind I have has like 7 grams of added sugar. I was like, I don't care. I'm beasting on granola with peanut butter because at least like the peanut butter and the fat and the protein are regulating that sugar, but I just kept eating it. And then I just wanted to keep beasting. And I saw my acupuncturist and I talked to her and I was like, Britton, I was like, why am I like wanting to beast on all this sugary stuff? I was like, when my body really needs like a piece of salmon. So I had salmon and a salad last night in order to kind of be more satiated, because like you can feed yourself. And I'm telling myself this because I eat a lot of nuts and seeds all day. And I was doing seed cycling for a while for my period, but I didn't notice any difference with that. But sometimes you don't need like nuts or seeds or cookies or chips or like little sort of snacky things or protein powder, for God's sakes. You don't need that. You just need, like, whether you're vegetarian or not, like salmon, obviously, if you eat meat, eggs, maybe if you just eat eggs, or, like tofu, like a stir-fry tofu with a lot of vegetables. You need protein of some sort, beans, legumes, and fiber. And that really helps me, at least, kind of calm the blood sugar, because the blood sugar is what spikes and makes everything go crazy, including mentally and physically. So that's just one example. But it's like, if I want to have something crazy, I'm gonna have something crazy. Like I have, like a vegan peanut butter pie I'd made with like a lot of like coconut butter in it. I might have that later. It has like no sugar added dark chocolate, because that makes me feel full. Because I know if I go have a ton of cookies or sugar or chocolate cake, it's going to make me, I don't care about the weight at this point. I've lost 100 pounds. And I want people not to focus on the weight, focus on your mental health. Because if I eat a lot of sugar or carbs, it's going to make me even have like more anxiety than I already do. And around your period, it gets even worse. So I'm trying to normalize the mental component as well as the physical component with satiating foods like that.
And that's great, because you're allowing us to see how you satisfy that, through making a healthier choice. Because it's funny, because during that time for me too, when I'm a week away, I start craving, and it's specific types of desserts, like it literally has to have a certain type of texture, like a crepe cake, or like a mousse, like or a creme brulee, like it has to be that way. And last month it was all about pancakes and peanut butter for me. Like literally, I took a jar of peanut butter and I just started spreading over my pancakes, like, because I was just craving like something thick, but something sweet. But I was also craving peanut butter. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh man, let's put this together. And I was so satisfied and unapologetically. And I love how you said, you satisfy that. And with, like you said, no worries about your weight, like it's okay, dude. It's okay. Like, and I think that's something very important for us as women to understand. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, it's okay if you want to eat that. Like, It's okay.
If you bleed a lot, or even if you're not on your period, or even if you're, menopausal or postmenopausal, you're human, you're hungry, stressed takes a lot of energy. Life takes a lot of energy. Eat. It's not going to like, why do we have to worry about staying in like this Barbie box? Like, eat,
Yeah, and I love that. I love that for you. I love that for our audience. because that's what it's about. Because I'm not gonna lie, I had no shame in eating that pancake and peanut butter. I was like, nope, I'm gonna do it. Like, and it felt great too. Like, and it's like, it's okay. It's not like this is something you eat every single day. Like this month is gonna be different. I'll probably be down at the tea house, having my pura tea and having my green tea crepe cake, like probably every single day for like 5 days, and I won't care, and it's okay. And I love that. And I love how you were able to honor your body and honor your feelings, and I love that. And I hope that, those who are listening can really gain and learn from your stories. You're off a prescription. You learned how to regulate, through diet and exercise, and you sought out the appropriate professions to also do so based on what was going on with you. So you took all the necessary steps and you committed to having this type of lifestyle for yourself, and you made that decision. And truly is very inspirational. And thank you so much for, letting us know about your story. Is there anything that you would like to share for anyone who is dealing with PCOS right now?
Oh, gosh. Well, first off, I wish you and your podcast and your teachings had existed when I was starting my period. It would have made me feel like I had a community and would have made me feel a lot better. So I'm just saying to anyone out there, whether you have PCOS or not, just take everything moment by moment, day by day. Try to not beat yourself up. Remember, it's like, I don't want to say anything that's like so cliche, but it really is true. Find your team of healthcare practitioners, take your knowledge, don't go down a WebMD like search, too much to drive yourself crazy. Keep the mental health component in with the physical health. You're exercising and eating right for your mental health as well as your physical health. And, listen to people like Miss Tanya. You can listen to my podcast. Listen to people who resonate with you, that make you feel better, that inspire you, and try to not feed into any negative garbage that you may hear. And with me, the negative garbage is usually from my own self. So try to get rid of all that. Sorry, Miss Tanya, that was a lot of
advice. No, it was great
advice.
No, that was great. Like, I appreciate it. And I'm sure that our audience appreciates it as well. Thank you so much, Brooke, for your time. This is truly an honor and a pleasure. Brooke, you guys, who is with Who's That Fat Girl? So make sure you check her out and listen to her podcast. Make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, okay? Because she is all about that, okay? She is here to help you along your journey because she's been there before, okay? It's not like she's just, in college just reading books and then just, no, like she's experienced it, okay? And it's not like something that's just all of a sudden, this is over a decade of understanding and learning, about the body. And she is going to give you a shortcut, for you to learn more about how you can use, dieting to help not only with your physical, but your mental health. So thank you so much, Brooke, for joining us.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you so much for everything you're doing to help all the people out there.
Oh, thank you, love. Thank you. And we're going to go into our last portion of our Unapologetically Woman. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining us today. Learn more about our guests in the description below. Download your free period tracker to stay in tune with your energy levels, mood, cravings, and your flow. Interested in being a guest on our show? Complete the form in the description. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts on today's episode and be entered into our surprise monthly giveaway. For women looking for a natural way to relieve menstrual cramps, try live resin gummies to ease menstrual cramps. The link is available in the description. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more empowering content. This is Unapologetically Woman.